Welcome to the Red Flag Diaries, the podcast that shows you what's really going on, with your hosts Amanda Hart and Belinda Coleman.
So today, Belle, we're going to be exploring red flags, the ones that we mistake for love, and how our past experiences can influence the relationships we choose. Have you ever looked back at a relationship and wondered when the warning signs first appeared, or were they there all along? So I'm going to ask you that question.
Well, the answer isn't because you're unintelligent. Let me make that very clear. Very often it's because we're drawn to what feels familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And familiar isn't always healthy.
Yeah.
But many of us grow up believing that the way love was shown to us is what love is, because we don't know any different. Early experiences with conditional love, approval-seeking, peacekeeping, or walking on eggshells can subtly influence our sense of normalcy as adults. So what we're used to as children or in our early years is what stays with us.
Yeah.
And we normalise that behaviour. So we take that with us into our relationships. And without realising it, we can mistake emotional intensity for connection.
Yeah.
Unpredictability for passion.
Yeah.
Because it makes us feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And sometimes can feel quite exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Or the need to rescue or fix someone, because that's what we believe love is. So that's why this conversation is important, and it's not about blaming anyone. It's not about blaming our parents or the people that were around us when we were growing up. It's about awareness.
Yeah.
Because once we understand our own patterns, we can stop asking ourselves, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what shaped me?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. And what you describe is supported by decades of research into attachment theory. And this is a really interesting area, really. So I wanted to get this right. So I wrote this down. So in simple terms, our earliest relationships often become the template for our adult relationships, which we've discussed there. They influence what feels familiar, how we respond to conflict, how safe we feel with others, and even what we come to believe we deserve. That's the sad thing about it. But the wonderful thing is that awareness gives us choice. Just because a pattern began in childhood doesn't mean it has to define the rest of our life. So I think there's a really interesting set of there's lots of advice out there, but there's leading voices in the field of trauma, especially someone like Dr. Gabor Mate, who famously said, trauma is not what happens to you, trauma is what happens inside you as a result of what happened to you. And I love that. It's such a simple statement, isn't it? But it changes the conversation entirely, because we don't ask what's wrong with me anymore. We're asking what happened to shape the way I see myself and experience love and relate to other people. So I think that's the real,
really important.
Yeah. That's what we need to look at. So I want to ask you some questions, Belle. So looking back, do you think there was a pattern in the kinds of relationships you found yourself in?
Yes, 100%. I was always, should I say, attracted to the same type of person, charismatic, confident, same swagger, same bad boy image. I know it sounds quite cliche, but I was attracted to that type of a character because what they presented in the relationship was a similar set of emotions that I experienced as a child. For example, my mother, God rest her soul, our relationship was very volatile, and it was highs and then lows. There was a lot of arguing and big, fights. I'm not talking physical, I'm talking about verbal, and that was throughout my whole teenage years. And then my mother was the most loving, kindest, generous woman. And then she'd come, and the guilt she felt, and it would be, so much love. So I had those incredible highs and then extreme lows with her in particular. And then my father left when my parents got divorced when I was 13. A really important age in a girl's life, because there's not that main male, there to validate you in a way. So him leaving and kind of, I guess, abandoning us, it distorted my view of love, trust and intimacy. So I looked for those traits in the relationships that I sought, and when somebody good came along, when the good guys came along, I completely sabotaged it, because it didn't do anything for me. It didn't feel familiar, therefore I didn't want that. I wanted something that caused tension and anxiety, because that's what I knew growing up.
So when did you first realise you weren't just choosing similar? Well, you weren't just choosing similar people, but repeating familiar relationship dynamics.
I think I always knew. If you'd asked me what's my type, I would have said that's my type.
Yeah.
I didn't realise I was choosing similar people until I think it was COVID. Around about COVID, that's how long. It wasn't that long ago, should I say?
Yeah.
And I was introduced to somebody, and a mutual friend, a friend of somebody else, not mutual. They introduced me to this person, and I went on a safe date with him at the park. We had a picnic, and I was hooked straight right there and then. He was exactly everything I've just described.
Yeah.
And I said to my friend, she said to me, "How did your date go?" And I said, "He is my ex-husband in somebody else's body." And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, do you think that's a wise thing?" And then, of course, what happened was, it went down the same. It was the same patterns. It was the same, type of relationship. Caused me tension, and so it was then I realised. But as the words were coming out of my mouth, I was like, "It appears that I." And I look back on my relationships, and I was always so much more drawn to those types. And in fact, my therapist said to me once, "Belinda, even if you had a mask on and you were a room, that energy that you are exuding for the person that you feel familiar with, you'll still end up with that same type of character."
I think, I mean, this is an area I'm absolutely fascinated in. You can attract someone across the other side of the world, online or just by phone, and they will be exactly the person that you've connected with, because it's our radar, it's our subconscious pattern.
It fits the stamp.
Yeah. So were there red flags that, looking back now, seem obvious, but that you explained away at the time?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely obvious, and I should have taken notice of, and I didn't. I completely ignored them, because I was hardwired to this. I was hardwired to that feeling of. I thought love was entwined with love. Love was entwined with pain, hurt and pain, and that's what I got. So, in its entirety, and in actual fact, to me, that's what love was.
That's interesting, isn't it? I mean, even when we can see it, we just justify it and we say, but that's what love is, and that becomes our familiar.
Well, and it also becomes quite addictive.
Yeah.
To keep being treated in that way.
Yeah.
Because it is addictive.
Yeah. Gosh. I was going to ask you something about your childhood, but you've already answered that. So have you ever found yourself trying to rescue, fix or change someone else because you believed love could make things better? I think you mentioned this in the last episode, but...
Or I did that. I've done that, should I say, my whole life.
Yeah.
Not just in relationships, with people. I'm always trying to help people, fix people, make things better for people. And in my relationships, even in my marriage, I believe that was my role, was to make everything right, and to fix to fix my partner, because I believe that was what I saw my mother doing it, for
Yeah,
example, and I mirrored that same behaviour. My mother was always very, very, which was and my grandmother, both huge people pleasers, and I spent years and years, and even now, I guess, I still do that, but I realised by doing that it was really only causing me to feel resentful. So there was that kind of double spike of,
Yeah, it's a bit of a dichotomy, isn't
yeah,
it?
of course, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
And how did your own self-worth influence the choices you made in relationships? Because I know you've talked about this extensively in your memoir, Wag to Warrior. So, yeah, how did that shape your own self-worth?
I accepted a lot because I just wanted to get it right, and there was no way on this planet it was ever going to go wrong. I absolutely loved my ex-husband with all of my heart, and I tried very hard to put it right, to keep it, on a level. And don't get me wrong, we had some fantastic times, but I didn't have the self-awareness I have now, and nor did he, for that matter. And when we first got married, we married after 6 months of knowing each other, and I remember saying to my granddad, I'm getting married. And he said, well, cool, blimey. He said, how old is he? And I said, well, he's 21. He said, cool, but he said he's still wet behind the ears, isn't he? So, and it's true.
Yeah.
What did we know? What do we know at that age?
Oh my God, we're children
about
then, aren't we?
Yeah, so I don't think it's a case of blaming anyone, or, it's a case of my self-worth in choosing partners. Maybe at times I didn't feel I was worthy of good love, honest love, loyal love, because of what I believe love to be.
Yeah.
And I didn't know any different then, and I certainly wouldn't have done. I was actually older. I was 26, 27.
Wow.
I didn't know anything about what was really happening or what was going on. Neither of us did. So it was like we were both flailing around in the dark. And so over a course of time, what happens is your self-esteem is, chipped away at, along with your confidence, along with your identity, so you end up becoming, you stray so far away from who you truly are at your core, that you end up losing yourself.
And I was going to ask you the question, what's your turning point that helped you stop repeating these patterns? But you've already mentioned this.
Oh, I have got a turning point.
Oh, really?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, I'd love to hear.
So, I mean, I did a lot of inner work, a lot of healing, and I threw myself into it in every way, shape or form. I mean, that's what I did. I went on retreat, I read books, I listened to podcasts, I watched everything, I really indulged myself in. I really wanted to change my life.
Yeah.
And it's this same guy that I was telling you about that I went out with during, and this is, obviously it wasn't that long ago really. So, and I remember the same thing. There was that, all of a sudden, what I'd felt in that moment, those butterflies and that, oh my God, I'm falling, all that sort of, all those emotions, all of a sudden it stopped. Unbeknown to me, he actually had a partner already, he had somebody else.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that at the time, but it stopped, and then that feeling of rejection, it crippled. I mean, I was absolutely beside myself, and it hurt. The pain was really, it triggered me so. And I thought at that time, and I remember I was in my bedroom, I thought, well, blow me down if I haven't done all this healing, and I've gone through all these years of doing the work, becoming a coach and everything. Why? What is going on? And I sat on my bed, and I felt terrible. I just, looking at the phone, is he going to message? And I sat down and I thought, what's going on then? Let's look at this. And then I realised this is old stuff. It's still in there,
Regurgitating.
Yeah, absolutely. This is old stuff. And I thought, and actually, because of the work I'd done on myself, because of the healing, I was able to pause for a minute and look at that.
Yeah.
Where in what in me, what is happening within me that needs work?
Okay.
And it was in that moment I thought to myself, I know what this is. This is old stuff. I'm not going to let it define me anymore. I've done it for so long. That's it. No more. Go. That's it. I've had enough.
Okay.
And I literally, that's what I said to myself. I'm not doing this anymore.
You just said, I'm done. That's
I'm
it.
done. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely done
Yeah.
with feeling this way. It's not worth it. It's not worth my time, my energy. I know my worth, and I'm not doing it. And all of a sudden, it was like I said, I wrote this in my book. It's like I just shed a heavy coat of years of feeling that way for so long. But when I looked it in the face and I thought about it, I thought, yeah, no, that's it.
Because having read your book, I was really struck by your honesty, your authenticity throughout the book. You took huge accountability. There's no blame. There's no finger pointing. I think probably because of your experience, people are immediately going to want to read your book to find, has she dished the dirt? And it's absolutely not that. And you give so much candid advice throughout, which is wonderful. And you do it gently and with a sense of grace that make people think, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. I can do that. And it really, it really does show that you were a work in progress and you took full accountability for that. So I really did enjoy reading how you interwove, your story and your advice for people as a coach. And why it's brilliant for us to be able to do this today, because I really wholeheartedly think you've come through such an expansive a lot of awareness in this arena that you can really give your perspective from a really trusted part of you now that says, yeah, I'm done with all of that, and I love that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that for your kind words. And I think that we have choices. We can choose to stay in that, in that place from fear and hurt and pain, or we can choose another way. And that day I chose another way because I thought, I'm just not, I genuinely didn't want to feel like that anymore. I genuinely recognised that this guy is, not the one. Why am I wasting this energy on somebody that doesn't deserve it? And I was genuinely, I told myself, all the voices, all the, the ego mind telling me, you're not good enough. Of course he's not going to message you. And I just thought, that's absolute rubbish. I am good enough. I'm going to stop it right now. And the second I did that, those feelings went. That's how
interesting, isn't it?
That's how powerful.
Yeah.
Just that awareness was that day. Or I could still be doing it right now.
Yeah.
I could still be feeling like, oh my gosh, that fear of rejection.
Isn't it powerful when something, it's like a light bulb comes on, and then you can have a huge shift through that awareness. And you don't have to be sitting in front of anybody or watching a podcast or reading a book. But it is, the inner work is necessary, isn't it, Belle?
Yeah, that got me to that place.
Yeah.
It wasn't an overnight, that didn't happen overnight.
No.
It was years of
compounding. Yeah, absolutely.
Self-inquiry.
So what have healthy boundaries taught you that you wish you'd known years ago?
Well, you teach people how to treat you. And if you allow somebody to treat you badly, or you enable their behaviour in the way that you don't set the boundaries, then you've only really got yourself to blame. You have to take responsibility for the way people treat you. And say, for example, you're sitting around a dinner table with your friends one evening and your partner, and he starts to belittle you and starts to, poke fun. And although it feels uncomfortable to you, you don't say anything about it. You allow it, and they're all laughing, and and then you get home, you have an opportunity to say, actually, I didn't appreciate the way in which you spoke about me. I felt ridiculed and I was embarrassed, quite honestly. It's unacceptable behaviour. If you don't put that boundary in, they're going to do it again. They think that behaviour is okay. They think that, and it's the same with friends, you know, and it's not fair if friends keep crossing that line, because you haven't put the boundary. You have to speak up when you put a boundary. It's not a silent contract. A boundary is, this is what I will accept and this is what I won't accept.
But I guess, I mean, especially for our generation, you know, a lot of it was, you know, little girls are seen and not heard. You know, respect your elders. It doesn't matter whether they're behaving badly. You respected your elders. You know, don't talk to your auntie like that. And what did you say that for? Well, I was being honest. Well, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to say this instead. So you were taught to lie and you didn't really know, you know, when you could speak, if you could speak, what you could say. And it was very confusing, very mixed messages, wasn't it?
Oh, we never taught about boundaries or asserting yourself.
Yeah.
Because we were told, you know, after school, maybe there's college, but you've got to get a good job, settle down, meet somebody, have children. It was all very much, that was the message in those days. So again, you know, with setting boundaries, it's difficult at first, because it causes conflict within you, because if you're not used to doing it and you're used to being a people pleaser and you don't set boundaries, so actually set a boundary, it may feel uncomfortable, but you have to become familiar with feeling uncomfortable if you want people to treat you in a certain way. And you know, that's what I wish years ago I'd been told, that boundaries are actually put in place so that, you know, people respect you, and people will respect you more if you say, actually, I didn't like that. And you know, there may be, otherwise what happens is you disappear from maybe your friend's world and they wonder what's going on, because you haven't actually said to them, are you okay? Because that time when you said that, or that little incident there, I felt uncomfortable with, because, you know, if you don't explain it in a way, you don't have to go at them all guns blazing. If you don't explain it in a way that sets the tone, and there's no anger in that tone, for example, it's easy to keep that friend in your life and tell them what you are prepared to accept, and then, you know, hopefully from then on you'll find people respect that. Or may not like it at first, but they won't do it again.
And I guess that, you know, there's room here to look at. I mean, I know specifically, you know, looking back, if I had faced those situations, those difficult conversations, I probably could have continued with friendships, but I was too frightened to set a boundary, so it was easier just to back off and run. And I think this is the thing. And also, people in healthy relationships respect boundaries, so you know that you're in the right relationship because that person actually respects what you've said. So yeah, I mean, it's really important what you've, and very valid what you've said about boundaries. So do you believe it's possible to completely change the relationship patterns we've lived with for years? That's an interesting
Absolutely,
one.
yes. Yeah. I do. I don't get me wrong, I'm still attracted to that type of a person.
Yeah, I hear you.
However, I am also more attracted now to somebody's heart and soul, you know, and love looks different to me now. It's, you know, it's more of a respectful love and a honest and truthful, and so I'd rather be on my own. And by the way, I would never tolerate a single day of being disrespected ever again. So yes, I 100% believe you can change those patterns when you identify them, and when you can interrupt them and change direction for a better outcome. That's when you change your patterns, and the more you do it, you know, the easier it becomes. At first it's not, you know, you'll still get sucked into those, you know, old ways, but you know, the brain learns through repetition, and the more you do something, the easier it becomes. It's as simple as that. So yeah, it's the answer to that.
Yeah, because I think we talked about this in the last episode when we said, you know, one of the things that we do is we excuse the narcissist and say, oh, it's because of his past. You know, looking at that, you know, we've all got the ability to change our lives and change our patterns. And making excuses for others and just saying, well, it's their past. You know, they've got as much ability to change their patterns of behaviour as we have, which is, I don't have to tolerate this. I'm off. Bye.
Yeah, but you have to work on it, and you have to be consistent, and you have to show up for yourself as well.
Definitely.
You know, and I think that it's so important to know this, because I think some people don't know where to start. Changing their life.
I think that's I mean, I think it's definitely worth exploring that in episodes in the future, because I think it's, people say I don't know where to start, and because of that they stop. They just say, well, I might as well just stay here, because it's much safer to be in the familiar. So I think this is something that we're definitely going to explore. So it'd be really interesting actually if we can just look at these sort of certain topics that we've kind of come up with, like seeking validation. Why do you think we seek validation?
Because of not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy. I think it's a pandemic. I think, you know, self-hate is a big topic. I have it with all my clients. They don't feel good enough. They don't feel worthy for whatever reason, you know. Therefore, you seek validation outside of yourself.
Why do you think that is? Because that's really interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, with the work that we do, it's all about doing the inner work. But why is it we are conditioned to seek validation in other people, do you think?
Because there's a void within us, a hole that's missing, and we're trying to pack that hole with something from the outside. It could be chocolate, it could be shopping, it could be alcohol, drugs, anything. You know, anything to stuff that hole. But it's only a temporary fix anyway. And then the next day you're back to where you were, because that hole will leak. That you know, you're not going to fill it. What you have to fill it with is self-love, self-care, self-respect, and again, it's how do you do that, you know? But once you grasp that concept as to why you look outside of yourself, you have to understand that the answers you are looking for are actually inside you, and only you can change that. Nobody else can change you. Nobody else. You can't find self-worth in a relationship, in somebody else's opinion, on the outside of you. It has to come from within, and it's hard. I know it's really hard for some people to understand that, because I have been literally on the floor before now, and thinking to myself, there is not one person, there is not one self-help book, there is not a magic wand right here, right now. I felt the lowest I've ever felt in the whole of my life, and didn't think that there was anything that could help me, and I was wrong. So there is hope, you know, in that respect.
I like the book you mentioned, about the analogy you used in a previous episode, which was about the leaky bucket, and keep pouring so much love. And we do that for ourselves, don't we? In that respect, because all we're doing, if we're using that relationship to try and fill the hole in the leaky bucket, it's never gonna work, is it? Because we have to do the inner work ourselves. So I think that's the thing. It is definitely an inside job, and that's really important.
Well, I told you the story about when I was married. I wasn't feeling great about myself, and I had a conversation with my ex-husband, and he said he liked he liked Halle Berry. She had the crop hairstyle.
Yes.
And then we were out having lunch, and there was another woman. She had the crop hairstyle, a beautiful woman. I think she was a model or something. And he said to me, do you know what? He said, that style would look good on you. And I've always had long, dark hair. Always. And in my mind, I thought, if I crop my hair, cut all of my hair off, he will see me.
Oh my gosh.
I will get his approval. It will validate me. He will love me. He will love me more, you know. And a week later, I said to my mum, I'm going to have all my hair cut off. And she begged and begged. And I just said, no. I just thought, this is the answer, you know. I did. I went and had all my hair cut off.
And how did you feel about it?
As it was dropping to the floor, I felt, what the, you know, am I doing? And I look back and I think how sad, but I was seeking that. That approval from my ex-husband, and but that's how low I felt at that.
And did
time.
It have the desired effect?
No, I went and got extensions in. in a hairdresser's in Kensington. I took my mother, I was telling you earlier, took my mother, and she was horrified because my hair's so thick. She was horrified when I walked out because it was back in the day when they were threading it all through, and he said, "You cannot go out like that. You look like you've got a wig on."
Because your hair would have looked like... Do you remember Crystal's Tips and Alistair in the old days?
It was
with the
shocking.
Dairy Lee
Oh,
triangle
my
hair
God.
out here.
Oh dear.
Oh,
And I
bless
had
you.
to be going out that night. Mum said, "You've got to go back to the salon. They've got to pin it back or something. You can't go out looking like that." I said, "Thanks, Mum." Yeah.
So that made you feel a whole lot better.
Well, we laughed.
Bless her.
We did laugh about it, but no, it didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't
didn't
make the
help.
situation any. It didn't work. So looking outside for validation is
Yeah.
is not the answer.
No. And we've got a few pointers here. So we've got things like rescue fantasies. What's the rescue fantasies about, do you think?
Well, sometimes I feel like if we rescue someone else, it will make us feel better. Or it could be, if my thing was I knew somebody wasn't coming to rescue me. I had no fantasy about that. So it depends in what context you're looking at it. I don't think in some sense people can rescue you. They can come along into your life. They can pick you up off the floor or whatever, of whatever position you're in, and they can make your life feel a little bit better. However, if when that person may leave that relationship and you haven't done that healing and you've relied on that other person, then
I've definitely been there. That was
what's going to happen?
Yeah, that was my scenario. I'd lost everything, my health and my businesses, and I had 2 dependent kids and dogs, and I'd lost my home, and they came and everything. They came and took the car, assets, bonds, the lot. And then this person came out of the blue and wanted to rescue me and offer me this incredible life. And I bought into that. It was oh my gosh, this is what I can give you, and I work in the such and such industry, so this is going to be so perfect for what you're doing. And I thought, this is absolute heaven. And what I didn't recognise was this was all very cleverly orchestrated, because they call it catfishing, when they take your photograph off the internet and they recognise and they make a beeline and they create a persona. And that never came to the forefront until the relationship came to an end.
That's very scary, isn't it?
Very
Wow.
scary. But it became apparent about 2 to 3 years in. I thought, this is strange, that all these coincidences, but you don't see it until somebody said, I didn't even know that existed. I didn't even know it was a thing.
Well, it's a bit like, you may as well call it the knight in shining armour
Of course,
syndrome.
that's it, yeah.
You want somebody to come along on their white horse and...
Absolutely. And we've all been fed those stories as children, of course, we want to be rescued.
Well, I believed in fairy tales.
So there's, we've also got people pleasing, which we've probably talked about quite a bit, but what about caretaking?
Yeah, it's like, if you can take care of somebody else, that does give you satisfaction.
Yeah.
That you feel needed, that you feel wanted by that person, that
useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you're pouring all your energies into somebody else, when in actual fact what you need to do is pour all your energy into yourself.
A lot of it is avoidance, all of this stuff, isn't it?
Of course, yeah.
So I think all of that, worthiness through helping is the same thing. But also fear of being alone. Now that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think we've all kind of got to that. But I know for me, that fear of being alone was far. I knew I was going into dangerous situations, but it was far worse to be alone than actually go into that situation.
Well, that's where you were emotionally at that time. But I think for me it was scary to be alone, and I never thought I'd ever be alone. And my therapist said to me one day, "Linda, you need to, keep going into one relationship after the next and be on your own." And I said to her, "Absolutely."
Didn't pay for this.
I couldn't think of anything worse at the time, and I've been on my own, and it's one of the best things I did, because actually I really quite like my own company.
Yeah, I know.
And there's nobody. Don't get me wrong. I think I'm I think I'm meant to be a wife and and a partner, and there's that companionship and intimacy and all that
agree.
I miss. But ultimately, I'm not desperate to be in a relationship because I need them to rescue me. There you
Absolutely,
go. Yeah.
That's quite interesting. So you've got some red flags that you want to share with us for this episode?
Yes, red flags. Well, I mean, bad behaviour. So possessiveness mistaken for passion, jealousy mistaken for caring. Jealousy, I was at a baby shower. I won't tell the whole story.
Okay.
But the baby shower I was at, and this young lady, she just ended a 10-year relationship, and he was, as she was describing him, it was emotional abuse, it was physical, it was just horrendous. And she said, on our second date, he took my phone and he deleted all the male numbers in my phone, and I thought that's because he loves me.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Oh my gosh, I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Bless her.
And that was, so jealousy mistaken for caring. She thought he actually genuinely cared for her. Control mistaken for intimacy. Obsession mistaken for devotion. Feeling chosen. That's
chose me.
Yeah, of course. Emotional highs, fantasy versus reality, because we can all fantasize about what the perfect relationship looks like, and what, I was brought up on fairy tales, and I believed in my prince would find me, and that actually did, I feel, transpire in my life, to some extent, but that's not real life.
No.
In actual fact, it can happen. It does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't. Of course not. But the reality is that ultimately, when we're younger, we don't know these things, and we're generally we're more interested in what a person looks like, how we dress it. It's all the aesthetics when you meet somebody, and I can validate that. I was in the nail bar a few months ago, and two young girls chatting, and they were chatting about some fella, one of them seeing or just met. And she said, oh God, if only he went to the gym though, because he's got a bit of a belly on him. And I was listening to this. She said, but he's really nice. I quite like him, but I don't know. Yeah, he needs to work out. His body's a little bit dad bod. And I thought, oh, that's such a shame. But that just reiterates what I was just saying there.
Yeah.
People are looking at.
So I mean, the thing is, I guess again, we're always so concerned about the external. We're not perhaps giving someone a chance to be able to see what's inside them, and that's another danger that we're in now. We're too quick to just swipe and look at what we think, and then that's how we keep getting the same characters, because we're not looking for the inner mechanism.
Well, we're self-sabotaging, because there are lovely people there are good people, there are people that would do all the things that you that you need, that you want, that you deserve, and yet we push that away because it's not familiar to us. And that's what we've got to get over ourselves. We've got to allow that into our lives, because we are deserving of love, and we are deserving of happiness and loyalty and trust. We are deserving of all those things, but if it's not familiar to you, then it's really hard to get over that part of it. But it's going back to patterns. You can do it. It's, look, if I can do it, then anyone can do it.
So why can love bombing, do you think, feel so irresistible?
Oh, because it makes you feel so amazing and wonderful, and you feel like, you've heard the saying, oh, he's treating me like a queen. There's truth in that. It's lovely to be treated like a queen if it's real and it's authentic and it's not fake. But love bombing is the opposite of that. It's treating somebody to impress them enough to blindside them into being with you,
Yeah.
to manipulate you.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's not real, and it's not sustainable either, is it?
No.
So what are some understated indicators that people may overlook during the initial phases, do you think, of dating?
I think one of them's rushing into intimacy, because some people believe that that's what will win someone over. If they can prove that they are good in bed,
Yeah.
oh, they'll see me, they'll like me, they'll they'll want more of me.
Yeah.
And that's quite often not the case, sadly. It's okay to say, I really like you, but I'd like to get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because if somebody really likes you and they want to get to know you, they will wait.
Yeah.
And they will, and the same as somebody will show you who they are. If they're trying to rush you, or then that's, to me, it's a red flag.
I think, I was just going to say that is probably a red flag if they're rushing intimacy. And this idea as well around future faking, I had a lot of that. We're going to get this big house and we're going to be living on the river and we're going to have this lovely lifestyle. And
But you did get that, though, didn't you?
I did get that, but I literally, my friend said to me, "You live in the gilded castle,
but
Amanda."
Is it because that was the promise that you thought,
he fulfilled the promise. Yeah. We had the boat and the luxury cars. It was, I mean, all was exciting, and the money just kept buying all these other things. But every time we got something, it was great for the period of time that it just after, and then it would be, we'd go back into that rut again, and then he would have to buy something else to impress. So it became a bit of the big presents. Yeah, the big presents. It became a fix to keep me thinking that this was, this is how it's going to keep rolling.
Well, it's also to sort of like say that, oh, look, why are you complaining? Look what I bought you.
Oh, yeah, actually that was it.
Look at your house. Yeah. Look at your car.
Oh, absolutely. I used to get that,
Look at your clothes, your shoes, your
For F's sake, Amanda, it's, it doesn't, okay, I might get angry every now and then, and I'd gone through 6 hours or whatever.
Behaviour.
Yeah, look at where you live. Look what I give you. You go to Michelin star restaurants, 3-4 times a week, and that justifies the behaviour. So I used to just shut up and put up, and that's the thing,
well,
isn't it?
It's very disrespectful as well, as to use that as to weaponise that. I think it's, and it doesn't matter. A lot of people say to me, "Oh, you're so lucky. Money's no object. Look at what you've got." It doesn't matter what you've got. That doesn't matter. It's if you're genuinely unhappy and you're struggling, or you're suffering in any way, it's the money. It's nice, but it doesn't fill that void. The void we were talking about earlier.
No, I definitely think that people have this misunderstanding when it comes to having money and being in a dysfunctional relationship, because for me that was the most money I've ever been privy to have. I say that apart from my parents who have money, but I never got entitled. I never had the privileges. Even though they had money, I didn't experience having that generosity passed on to me. And I think that's how money has always eluded me. So even though I was in that situation, money was all around me, and there was beautiful things and beautiful places that we went to. But it was the saddest I ever was. And I think that was a direct reflection of my childhood, because I just felt that I'll keep attracting that as part and parcel of it as well. So money doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to compensate for the upset and the hurt and the pain.
But it doesn't.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
45 minutes. Okay, so just looking at this, so why do we ignore our intuition, do you think?
Because we're swept along by the emotions of what we feel is love, or it could actually be love, and we ignore it because what we want what we want.
Yeah.
And if we want that person in our lives, and we are, or we feel we're in love, or we are in love with that person, it doesn't matter what they do.
Yeah.
Because I love them.
Yeah.
And you'll excuse it. And there's a big part of me, for example, back then, wwhere I said, we'll get over it.
Yeah.
You know, I made the excuses in the beginning. I completely ignored the red flags. And so we tell ourselves another, you know, we change the narrative instead of facing reality. Because you don't want the alternative. You don't want to be without that person.
No.
So you're going to ignore the red flags. But what happens is it's those red flags are often the reason why you leave a relationship in the end. And it could be years later.
Yeah, I like that. I think you've mentioned that before, but you're absolutely right. It's you've said this, and it actually makes perfect sense. It's not that they don't exist; they do exist, and they are eventually the reason why we leave. It's interesting. So yeah, I think we're going to wrap up today because I think we've covered quite a lot about red flags. So if today's conversation has resonated with any of you watching this week's episode, we'd love you to become part of the Red Flag Diaries community. So you can subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you know someone who might need to hear this conversation, please like, comment and share it with them. If there's a question you'd like to answer, a story you'd like to share, or a conversation you think more people need to hear, we'd love to hear from you. Just use the link in the description to get in touch. And with your permission, we may feature your question or story in a future episode. And of course, if you'd rather remain anonymous, that's absolutely fine, as we'll always respect your privacy. And finally, if anything we've talked about today has raised concerns about your situation, please don't struggle alone. We've included the links to support organisations and helplines in the episode. So please look at the description for anything that we've talked about today. And until next time, keep trusting.
And thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Or listening.